Good afternoon, moms of Master Books. Right now, I am blessed to have acquired a preview of Math Lessons Level K. Somebody labeled it as fishy math. So what I'm going to do is a quick preview. Now, this is in the stages of design. So what happens is the content and all of that is created. The editors go through it. Then it goes to design. Now, design, they've only been working on the layout for a short amount of time, and they'll finish this off pretty quick. And then from there, they're going to go to, it'll go back to the authors. The authors are Carrie Bailey and Angela Odell on this. It'll go back to them. They'll look at it, see if there's any changes or reviews. Then it'll come back here for finals. Then it'll go to a proofer, and it all happens really quick. As soon as we can get through everybody working together. So there's two designers actually working on this, so it's going pretty fast. All right, so that's the process. I know the date right now is September 15th. We're hoping for earlier than that, but we will do the same that we're doing with the science and let's talk science and my mind drew a blank on that. And then the Simply K, I know emails are going out with a link to the first 6 weeks of that so people can get started. So we'll do the same with this. As soon as it's ready to go to the printer and it's all approved by everybody, we'll send off the first 6 weeks or so that people who have pre-ordered it have access to it to start with school. So I have a new system, and I'm going to try to change this. Let's see. Ta-da! Awesome. All right. So let's see if I can arrange this. Now, again, this is in the early stages. Course description. It's designed approximately 30 minutes per lesson. A lot depends on the student. As far as that goes, some will be a lot less. Some may be a little bit more. It's 1 year, and it's 5 days a week. So the objectives: learn numbers from 0 to 100, review circles and patterns, counting, addition, days of the week, and telling time, explore simple concepts and symbols used in mathematics and simple fractions, identify place values, number families, in solving for an unknown. Now, it's in this course, it's for kindergarten, preparing them for elementary math. So it's not a hard math course. It's more of they're learning math skills, basic skills, but they're learning application and critical thinking skills, and it's preparing them for the rest of the math, the elementary math series. Hope that made sense. Okay, let's see. Okay, so there's some manipulatives that they'll use in the front of the list: construction paper, fasteners, hole punch, rings to keep flashcards together. There'll be some manipulatives in the back, a little bit about how to use the manipulatives, that type of thing. There's a daily schedule. It's 5 days a week. So Simply K is 3 days a week. This will be 5 days a week. Now you could easily adapt this to like 2 days a week or 3 days a week when you do the kindergarten. You could adjust that, but it's really set up for kind of 5 days, and it's just because it's bite-sized so that they don't get overwhelmed. The format is the same. Starts out just like what we have with the rest of the levels, where we have a story. And so these stories fit the math. The rainbow circle: Mama, when's it going to stop raining? And Charlie questions his mom about the rainbow, and they talk about the rainbow. And then it comes to, here's the teacher note. So teachers, front matter for suggestions: how to teach calendar concepts. These concepts are taught over the whole year. They are not going to grasp this all yet, but it is a simple and basic introduction. So you're just kind of teaching them. Here's what a calendar looks like. Here are the basics, with some information of what they're going to need to complete the calendar, review the back of the calendar. Then every day has 2 sections. So the first section is application. Have you ever seen a rainbow I bet when you've seen a rainbow, you thought it was only part of a circle. The rainbow is actually a full circle. You can only see part of it unless you are up in the sky at a certain angle. A rainbow stands for the promise from God. Notice the circle has no stopping points. It's kind of like a ball. Look around and see if you find things that are shaped like a circle. And so we're beginning to identify just shapes and colors and those types of things. Now, this is lesson 1, so it's very basic for a student who would be, approaching kindergarten, or some might choose to use this even as kind of a preschool math, but we're saying it would be appropriate for a 5-year-old. So they're going to see the circles and the colors, and that's the application that they're understanding. Then critical thinking is about different lines. Here's a straight line. Here's a curved line. Here is a line with both curves and straight. And so they get a little bit of information on that. On day 1, which number below is blue with curved lines? Which one is orange with a straight line? And so you're just talking colors, numbers, pretty basic, but for some students, it'll just help them identify depending on who the student is. Circle the ball is purple, put a mark on the ball that is red, count all the balls. And so there's your math lesson for the day. You get to read the story, talk about math, or the colors, the shapes, the lines, that type of thing. And you can see here's application, here's critical thinking. Day 2. So we're still talking circles. Trace the circles on the page with your finger. How many circles do you have? And so they're going to trace the circles with their finger. I'm left-handed, so I obviously go the wrong way. Now count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so you help them. Teacher note, if the student struggles to count on his or her own, just repeat this throughout the day. Even sing a rhyme with it. They do not need to count the items, they're just counting. And so they're practicing counting. And for a 5-year-old, for a lot of 5-year-olds, that's going to be a pretty good part of it. Now that's the application standpoint. On the critical thinking, can you find me? Point to the right answer. I'm wearing a red dress. And so I'm looking at the pictures and I choose the person with a red dress. A blue apron on. I choose a blue apron. But there's 2 with blue apron. I have a red bow on my dress. Critical thinking skills need some help, obviously. Here's a blue apron. I have a blue bow. Let's see. I have a red bow and blue shoes. That's red bow, blue shoes. So you're just helping them develop those mental critical thinking skills. If they're being asked a question, they look at a picture and assess it. These are critical thinking skills that are going to help them in math. So you're helping the brain actually develop connections and training that and building stamina as you go. So something that simple, it's fairly easy for any mom to be able to sit down with a kindergartner and say, let's just kind of go through this page. Not too overwhelming. We could even do application in the morning, critical thinking in the afternoon. Something like that if you wanted to, if the student had absolutely no attention span. Counting objects is fun. So we count the objects, then circle the red shape. Now they've done a circle, but this will be the first time that they're actually taking a crayon and drawing a circle around it. Do you know, circle the red shape. Do you know what shape it is? And did they remember that from before? If not, you're just developing those skills with them. So in the beginning, they're learning shapes, they're learning colors, they're beginning to practice skills, they're talking about the calendar, having an awareness of some different things like that. Then we start the next week. Here's the lesson that you would read together about shearing sheep. We're working on the calendar. We come back to making sheep with thumbnail print or a fingerprint and making a sheep, looking at, that's the oval. And so we use the fingerprint to make an oval, counting to 3. And so you can kind of get a feel for it. Now it's pretty basic as far as skill level goes, but it's really designed more for application critical thinking skills, developing that, and also the stamina to be able to work through a lesson and do it without overwhelming the student or wanting too much from them. I've talked in the past about our approach to kindergarten, that kindergarten is it's preparation for the next 12 years of learning for us. It's not necessarily the academic experience of 12 years in kindergarten. Okay, so we have application, critical thinking. Again, you can get an idea. So start at 0, hop like a bunny from 0 to 7. So we hop like a bunny through the timeline. And so it just starts introducing them a little bit to time moving, the timeline approach. I think it's brilliant, actually. Critical thinking, and they're starting to develop and draw through this. Considering I'm a 50-year-old man and how hard that is for me to do, apparently I need some skills in kindergarten. Stuff like this I really enjoy. Okay, critical thinking. So here's a giraffe, cow. I slide around on my belly. Who am I? Snake. Pretty easy. And what it's going to do, though, is come back to this and begin teaching tall, short, those type of things. So we're learning squares, and we're learning about a square has how many sides, folded shirt like a square. Here's some shapes. So they've already learned about these shapes. They can actually draw a picture of a cat, oval, circle, triangle, triangle, square, square. For a lot of 5-year-olds, that is going to my mind blown. All right. A little bit more of the critical thinking. We're going to go on a shape hunt around the house and see if we can find things that are square shaped. It's almost like a treasure hunt. Treasure, there's some applications. So here we have the idea of matching. Now let me just move this over a little bit so you can see it. As simple as this seems for us as adults, for a child knowing, oh, everything that has this symbol on it goes in that bin, and everything that has a square on it goes in that bin. Because these are things throughout the rest of their school, they're going to be, draw a line from the correct answer to, from the word to the correct answer, whatever. This is the way that they're going to be asked to start thinking logically. So it starts preparing their brains for that. 7 days in a week, let's count to 7. Okay, again, lesson 5, week 5 starts with a story. Then it moves into that day, we're talking now about rectangles. Okay, so this was the page I was talking about, critical thinking. Gather a few objects or toys that are tall and short, big, small, comparison activity. Be sure to stand by the student when you talk about being taller than he or she is. So when we look at the giraffe that we were introduced, right, there was a giraffe. Here's a giraffe. The giraffe would be tall compared to them. So you would be short, they would be tall. But what if you took a stuffed animal and put it next to you? Would you be tall and they would be short? And kind of getting an idea of taller versus shorter, bigger versus smaller. Now, cool, we can trace this house, but now we've done all the shapes to actually do this. We've done squares, triangles, circles, ovals. So it'd be really easy to actually have them just take a piece of paper and use what they've learned about squares and circles and triangles. Okay. Now again, we're fairly early in this. It develops some more as it goes up. So now we're on the stars, and so we'll count the points of the stars. And as we get out here, we may not have all of the images in place yet. Robot challenge, look at the robot made. And so they can actually start identifying from the robot. And I have a feeling a lot of kids are going to enjoy actually creating shapes and different things using what they've got from that. Okay, so some of the critical thinking skills. Now, I only have the beginning of this course where it's just starting to teach sides, shapes, colors, some of the basic things that you would have. Now, again, I mentioned before, this would be a good example of matching. And so we're learning full, empty, sunny, rainy. So now they're learning about opposites. And these are all concepts that for a kindergarten, they're going to need to be able to move into that first grade math. Skills that we kind of take for granted, but big, small, or big versus tall versus short, big versus small, different things like that And it's going to be done from the concept of here's a story. The story relates to what we're learning about. Sad versus happy would be the opposite. Let's see. I think we do a few more of those. So critical thinking, Charlie and Charlotte also notice their shadows. Look at the shadow. What does the shadow look like? And then draw a line down the middle of each shadow from top to bottom. Then we have the same thing on each side. This is called symmetry. We have symmetry too. Look, we have an ear on each side, an eye on each side, an arm on each side. This means we are symmetrical. Now you see, it starts out real basic and then begins building on skill. So here we have each one, they're just going to draw a line right down the middle, and then they'll see the symmetrical or the symmetry of each of the shapes. And as they go, they're going to learn to count to 100, some basic place value. They're going to learn about addition. What are the different signs that we're going to be familiar with, addition, subtraction, but it's all very basic from that standpoint. Oh no, the spider and the butterfly are not symmetrical. Draw the missing half to make them have symmetry again. For a 5-year-old to be able to slowly draw this is going to be a challenge. So some may not have any issue, and some may be tempted to go earlier and try it with a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old. That's up to you. But I think for a lot of 5-year-olds, especially 5-year-old boys, who tend to be more inclined to not want to sit down and pay attention, a page like this may be a real challenge. So we may think that it's just about going through the book, but what they're actually doing here is really developing some core skills, right? Of what's there, how do I copy that? That's like pretty intense stuff. And for a 5-year-old, that's even more intense, because we got to remember, our 5-year-olds aren't little adults. Their brains are making connections and making processes. And so for a lot of kids, what happens sometimes, we get them a little too early, or we want to rush them into it. And it can cause some issues because they're just not developmentally ready for it. And we think, well, because they didn't do it, they just drew something and it was done. It's good, but they're kind of missing the point. Hopefully that was helpful to somebody. I don't know. Okay, so again, critical thinking, we're match the other half of the shape. So again, we're back in symmetry and symmetrical. So kind of goes along too with the opposites. Here are the opposites actually. So we've got the front. What's the opposite? The back, full, empty, dry, wet. And so that gives you an idea of the way the math is set up. Let's see. Okay. So that is a preview of the level K math that I have. Now I will also take some pictures and put those up in the group so that you can kind of see a couple of the pages as well, other than the preview. But again, it's designed to complement Simply K, and it's designed to really just help that student. It's preparing them for school. So really the kindergarten approach, getting them going. And then they move from that into level 1. So if you have any questions, be sure to post. I know Carrie Bailey, I think I saw that she was in this feed and would be happy to answer questions as well. And the expected ship date right now is September 15th. And let me just say a word about that as far as dates go. So when we get a project, usually a project is a year out. So right now people are connecting with us about projects that we will be doing in the summer of 2020 or 2021. So we get a proposal and we do a best guess. We say we would love to ship this out come next summer. We want it shipped next summer. And then as the process begins and the authors submit things and the designers touch it, and then it goes out for review, and the first rounds of review come back and say, well, I didn't understand this. And then things it builds in complexity very quickly. And then it kind of comes to a place where, okay, we've got everything together. We know where we're going, and design really begins the process. Some more things usually need fleshed out. And some of these projects that we're doing, quite frankly, like a language lessons or the more than words, if you have a more than words, you know how beautiful that is. Design put a lot into that to really make that exceptional. And in doing that, there's only so many hours in the day. And so a lot of these projects, everybody's working extra time, and they're taking things home and trying to get as much done, because we realize everybody has deadlines and wants to start school and those things. So know that it's not just everybody sitting around and not doing anything. We are trying as hard as we can to get it out, but we also want to get it out as quality as we can. So we're having proofers go through it, having it reviewed by a couple different people, as well as our teams in-house, and so that we put out the best product possible when you get it. So hopefully this has been helpful, helping you in making the choices that you're doing. And if you have any questions, please ask it here. And I'm sure Carrie or Angela or somebody else in our team will be able to answer that for you. All right, guys, God bless you. Have a good day. We will see you next week. Actually, next week, Brittany is interviewing on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Brittany will be interviewing Rebecca Spooner about more than words. And I think that'll be a fascinating interview. All right, talk to you later. Have a great weekend.